So in honor of September 1st, which was on Tuesday, when all of us should have been getting back on the train to Hogwarts, even if you're too damn old to go to Hogwarts, god damn it, you're not a wizard, Marina. How many times do I have to tell you this? I'm gonna make a video about two of my favorite topics, gender and Harry Potter.
This can only go so well, so everybody hold on to your hippogriffs and let's crack on.
This is obviously just for fun and not something I would probably even be thinking about when I was 12 and originally reading the book series, but being the excited young women's studies student that I am, I just think about gender all the time constantly, according to too many commenters. Many commenters. So I started thinking about how there tends to be gender gaps in many subjects in colleges, and I know a lot of this has to do with the way that men and women are socialized differently. Women tend to be encouraged to go into fields that are more nurturing and compassionate, and discouraged to go into fields that have like heavy math and science because we don't want to hurt their poor lady brains.
I will agree with you, Marina, that boys and girls at a young age are taught different things. For example, boys are taught not to hit girls, and girls are taught to not sit with their legs open when they're wearing a skirt. Things like that. What I will disagree with you on, Marina, is the women in education. Women in education are almost heavily encouraged to take up fields of study such as maths and science, and this is due to the campaign that feminists have of wanting more women in STEM fields. So, educators want to put more women in STEM fields of study so that they can go on to have STEM careers. What you're not taking into account, Marina, is personal choice. Personal choice is based on the likes and dislikes or hobbies and interests of individuals. So if an individual woman liked maths and science, actually enjoyed the fields of maths and science, it is more than likely they will choose certain STEM fields of study when going into college and further into university, so that they can one day have a STEM career. But if another woman doesn't like maths and science, it's more than likely that she will pick different paths, different career choices in what she wants to do. As examples of this, let's look at me and my sister. I know they're not perfect examples, but hear me out. You see, when I was in school, I hated maths and science. This was personally because I thought I was rather stupid in these areas of study, and believe me, if there was a dunce cap within the vicinity, I would have put it on myself. So when it came time for me to pick what fields of study I wanted for college, I chose art, media, and with a bit of literature on the side because that's what I was interested in. That's what I liked. My sister, on the other hand, is different. My sister loves science and was just as encouraged as I was to take on science. So when she entered college, she started to study forensic science. And now that she's in university studying for her master's degree, she's studying anthropology, the study of bones. And she's gotten so good at it, I've had to rename my skeleton Bob, because she said it was a hermaphrodite and not a female. But Marina, what I'm getting at is it's more about personal choice based on the likes and dislikes, the hobbies and interests of that individual woman. It's not based on gender. Women are encouraged to go into STEM fields, just like I was encouraged and I didn't choose it. Just like my sister was encouraged and now she's studying bones. And I think that's pretty hard science, and it doesn't hurt her lady brain.
And obviously there are men that are nurturing and women that are logical, but those traits tend to be associated with men and women, and those qualities are nurtured in them from birth to adulthood. So while there are definitely exceptions to the rule, socialization definitely plays a huge part in the types of qualities that men and women have as they grow up. And this made me wonder that if gender gaps exist in educational fields in the Muggle world, if there would be gender gaps as well in the houses at Hogwarts. Like if certain houses value certain traits that tend to be associated with different genders, would there be disproportionate rates of men and women in different houses?
So? I'm sorry, Marina. I know this is a fun video, and it's probably not meant to be taken seriously, But why are you trying to make this an issue? Why are you trying to make it seem like it's a bad thing if the ratio between boys and girls isn't precisely 50-50? If it is or isn't, it doesn't really matter. Because we're only focused on 3 characters, Harry, Ron and Hermione, with a few characters that pass us by every now and then. That's the whole focus of the story. But if we were to actually look at the Wizarding World, the Wizarding World doesn't disparage based on gender. That's not meaning to say it isn't perfect. There is prejudice, but we'll get into that later. But the Wizarding World only cares about your skill with magic. What you can do with that magic to help improve the Wizarding World, to help push it forward. That's all it cares about. Doesn't matter if you are a man or if you are a woman. Doesn't matter. Skill with magic is all that matters.
What about non-binary and gender non-conforming students?
If we have to acknowledge fake Tumblr identities, the Wizarding World does not care if you identify as gender non-conforming, non-binary, gender fluid, or identifies as a freaking unicorn. They only care about the skill with magic. That's it.
If certain traits of certain houses are socialized in masculine and feminine people, then would there be male-dominated and female-dominated houses, or would the breakdown be more equal? I'm sure J.K. Rowling would probably want to say something along the lines of all of the houses having an equal distribution of men and women.
Considering her track record in saying that Dumbledore is gay, the one true pairing was actually Harry and Hermione, and the fact that she doesn't mind that the actress playing Hermione in the play The Cursed Child is black, I wouldn't put it past her to say something like this, but at the same time I wouldn't put words in her mouth.
But I wonder if this imaginary magical school existed in real life, just like suspend your disbelief for a second, would it be subject to the same sexism and sexist assumptions about men and women and the same socialization that, the Muggle world has? Is there sexism in the Wizarding world? That's a question I want to know.
The simple answer is no, there is no sexism within the Wizarding world. There is prejudice, however, though that prejudice is based on blood. Whether a witch or wizard is a pureblood, a half-blood, or a muggle-born, or the derogatory term mudblood. Again, this has nothing to do with gender, it has nothing to do with race either. It has to do with parentage, whether you have a long lineage of wizards and witches in your family, or you do have some muggle relatives. And if you do, that is what is looked down upon. So there is that prejudice, but there's no sexism.
Let's look at some of the traits of the different Hogwarts houses. Gryffindor tends to be associated with bravery, loudness, boldness, being assertive, and not being afraid to stand your ground, which tend to be the traits that are socialized in men rather than women, who are socialized to be passive and polite and accommodating for other people. So could one assume that Gryffindor would be male-dominated?
Well, I did my own bit of digging around to see what traits a sorting hat looks for when placing prospective students into the Hogwarts houses, and this is what I found. Gryffindor, the house of the brave, loyal, courageous, adventurous, daring and chivalrous. Those who stand up for others are typically Gryffindors. Brave-hearted is the most well-known Gryffindor characteristic, and Gryffindors are also known to have a lot of nerve. Gryffindors are people who hold a multitude of qualities alongside the ones listed, making them a very well-rounded house. People who are Gryffindors are often people who could fit nicely into another house, but choose to tell the sorting hat they want Gryffindor. There's that bravery. Do what is right is the motto Gryffindors go by. To me, these seem more like personality traits rather than gender traits. Either gender could be brave, loyal, courageous and adventurous, and these can be displayed in such simple acts as getting on that first bike or standing up to your friends, to even bigger acts of charging out onto that battlefield knowing that there might not be a tomorrow. And either gender can display a brave heart to simply do the right thing. And Hermione Granger is the perfect example of this. Hermione could have easily got into Ravenclaw house with the fact that she is known as the brightest witch of her age. But when the Sorting Hat placed her in Gryffindor, maybe it saw something within Hermione, about Hermione, that outshone her intelligence, and I think that was her bravery, her adventurous spirit, and her loyalty that she has towards her friends. This is displayed throughout the books and throughout the films.
What about Slytherin, which is typically associated with being ruthless, cold, cunning, and ambitious? Definitely not traits that women are typically encouraged to have, so would this also be a male-dominated house? And would the women in this house experience sexism for being too ambitious or cold and unfeminine? I have a bad feeling that female Slytherins would be called bitches quite a bit. And it seems like J.K. Rowling might hold some of these sexist assumptions herself. I mean, there are only like 2 female Slytherins in the book, and both of them are described super negatively, and neither of them are super nice or pleasant people to be around. Then again, all of the boy Slytherins aren't necessarily described super positively either, but there are way more of them.
You know what they call that? Gender equality. But to get to the traits of Slytherin house. Slytherin. This is the house of cunning, prideful, resourceful, ambitious, intelligent, and determined. Slytherins love to be in charge and crave leadership. Do what is necessary is the motto of this house. Slytherin is a fairly well-rounded house. Similar to the other houses, they are loyal to those that are loyal to them, just as Gryffindors are, and are intelligent as Ravenclaws. Not to mention that Slytherin only accepts pure-blooded witches and wizards, so there's that discrimination by blood again. So it's possible that students of the Slytherin house might look down upon the other houses because they know that they are more superior in terms of blood lineage. But again, these are more personality traits over gender traits, because even women can be prideful and cunning in their own ways. But honestly, I think the women in the Slytherin house would actually give the boys a run for the money, considering it's Slytherin.
I also wonder if houses like Ravenclaw that value logic and intelligence would devalue the women in the house, because again, there are many sexist assumptions about women being super emotional and illogical, so I wonder if the women in Ravenclaw would have these assumptions placed on them as well.
Ravenclaw. The house is known for their wisdom, intelligence, creativity, cleverness, and knowledge. Those who value brains over brawn can be found here. Ravenclaws often tend to be quite quirky as well. Do what is wise is the motto they strive to follow. Though Ravenclaws can be know-it-alls sometimes, they most likely do know what the wisest decision is. And considering that Ravenclaw was actually founded by a woman, that's actually very sexist of you to consider that, Marina. But intelligence can come in many forms, whether you are street smart or book smart, whether you think things through creatively or think things through logically, and anybody can do this. And as I said earlier, Hermione would have been a perfect fit for Ravenclaw since she was known as the brightest witch of her age. But the perfect example of Ravenclaw is actually Luna Lovegood. She was rather quirky, but very intelligent in what people actually brushed off and claimed was fantasy. She believed in Nargles and actually found Harry by following the Nargles, while other Ravenclaws just went, that's bonkers.
Also, let's not forget Hufflepuff. Sweet, sweet Hufflepuff. This is a house that values kindness, fairness, patience, and understanding, all qualities that are more nurturing and would be associated with femininity. So would Hufflepuff be a female-dominated house, perhaps?
Hufflepuff. This house values hard work, dedication, fair play, patience, and loyalty. Hufflepuffs are known for being just and true. Do what is nice is their motto. Hufflepuff is known for being the nice house and believes strongly in sparing people's feelings and being kind. This is not to say that Hufflepuffs aren't smart or courageous. Hufflepuffs just enjoy making others happy and tend to be more patient towards people.
Also just the fact that the Hufflepuff common room is located in the Hogwarts kitchen, so how many sexist jokes do you think the female Hufflepuffs would have to deal with about getting back to the kitchen?
I don't think the women would have to put up with any jokes whatsoever, considering house elves. But if we were to take your form of logic, Marina, what does it say about the Slytherins considering that their dorm room's in the dungeon?
Probably a lot. There are just so many questions that I have no answers to. Because Harry Potter is not real, Marina, so it's just totally fine. Totally fine. Anyway, let me know what your guys' thoughts on this are. Have you ever wondered similar things? What do you think the gender breakdown would be like? Do you think I'm being ridiculous? Don't answer that last one, because I already know.
I do think this video was ridiculous, Marina. What this video showed was that you only dipped your toe back into the wizarding world. You looked at traits that the Sorting Hat looks for and assumed that because some traits are assumed with male and some traits are assumed with female, that the Hogwarts houses have to have a disproportionate amount of male and female within their houses, while not taking into consideration that everybody's an individual and these are more personality traits over gender traits. But the biggest thing is, you shouldn't really care about that whatsoever. The characters that you should care about are Harry, Ron and Hermione, because they're the ones the story is focusing on. And really, even that was messed up because everybody's feelings kind of went towards Snape and Dobby at the end of it. So that's the end of the video, guys. Comment your thoughts below, I would love to hear from you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go clear my head and dive into the world of Percy Jackson and Camp Half-Blood. I need to show those demigods what a real child of Poseidon could do. See ya.